I'm Clifford Ngomani, and I'm the Deputy CEO of the NRF, responsible for National Research Infrastructure Platforms. And in that portfolio that I'm responsible for are the 5 national research facilities, of which the South African Astronomical Observatory, or SAO, is one, and the Office of Astronomy for Development is hosted by SAO. Look, I think that astronomy, firstly, is a science that has proven itself very effective in inspiring society, in inspiring an interest in science by society, because I think we're all fascinated with our origins and where where things are going, and also we all are quite interested in understanding where do we fit in the big picture, of the universe. And astronomy has managed to do that well in kind of getting us an understanding of where do we fit and what's our relative importance and significance in the broader scheme of things. And so that's the one. The second thing is that astronomy has also been effective in transferring knowledge and technology from scientific applications to broader societal benefit. So whether you're talking about, the internet or for Wi-Fi, or about Wi-Fi for that matter, those are, are technologies and applications whose genesis was in physics and astronomy, but have now been, embraced by society for its own benefit, and which then escalates to an ability to do other things that were not possible before the invention of those technologies and applications. So by looking at astronomy as an instrument for supporting and advancing development, I think that is an innovative idea. And it also gives, how can I put it? It gives credence to the importance of astronomy to contribute to society while addressing some of the most fundamental scientific questions. Look, the key thing is resources, because I think that there's no shortage of ideas with regard to how you can use astronomy, as an instrument for development, whether it's in terms of supporting the teaching and learning in the in the fields of science, mathematics and physics in particular, or in promoting, astronomy as a science and promoting the interface between science and society, in distilling technologies and applications from the science of astronomy to benefit particularly communities that are in marginalized contexts. So I think there's no shortage of ideas there as to what can be done, as has been shown in the various projects undertaken by the OAD across the world. So I think the biggest challenge is finding the resources to invest in the programs and to enable the programs to be crystallized into active engagement with communities, active development, of communities, through aspects derived from physics and astronomy. And so that there's the financial resources on the one hand, but there's also the human resources, finding people who can bridge that divide between science and society, people who can talk to society about science in a manner that society can understand, and that is intelligible to society, so that society can actually understand the importance of science and the contribution of science in its own development. So I think those are 2 forms of resources that I think are going to continue to challenge us. And in the case of the OAD, I think as has come out of the recent review, one of the things that we've got to do is to broaden the disciplinary interfaces, so that it's not just scientists trying to figure out how to benefit and impact society positively, but there's also the social sciences and humanities component, which has as its starting point society, and understand how society thinks and responds, and acts as that kind of bridge between society and and science, and the science of astronomy, in order to unlock and troubleshoot aspects of that interface, so that they can be impactful activities, that are of benefit to society. For me, the biggest entry point is the science engagement agenda, and that we have as a country, and in particular as the NRF. I think that is the first starting point in how the OED can, for lack of a better word, insert itself and establish, its importance and relevance and impact through partnering with existing and developing new science engagement, activities and interventions, but also kind of utilizing that space as an experimentation space that leads to modeling for interfaces with other disciplines, of science, as to how those can, can interface, with society, taking lessons that have been learned from, especially the OAD projects that are carried out all over the world. So, for example, if I think of that Himalaya project that seeks to provide, power to remote mountain communities, we've got those in our country. So the question is, to what extent can we utilize that knowledge and experience to implement, similar initiatives, at a local level? I'm not saying they are not happening. I'm just perhaps not aware. I used to be on the board of an organization called Project 90 by 2030, which looks at mainstreaming, climate change in society through utilizing science to benefit society through alternative technologies for accessing, energy for the day-to-day use by communities. So there's an opportunity there to partner not only with the NRF, but with other organizations that are in the science-based development space. You have to look at the science and research enterprise as a continuum. I think we make a mistake when we start compartmentalizing it into blue skies and fundamental research and applied research and innovation. It's all a continuum, Applied research is not possible without fundamental research, and innovation is not possible without applied research and fundamental research. So I think we must always look at this as as a continuum. What we have to master and fine-tune is our ability to crystallize the benefits of that value chain, so to speak, of that continuum, to crystallize it into products and processes and applications that benefit society. So, for example, radio astronomy, if you like, or astronomy generally, in this country, we had a pandemic since last 18 months. And one of the things that was done is to utilize the engineering and project management expertise of SARAO, which is our National Radio Astronomy Observatory, to project manage the production of 20,000 national whatever ventilators that can be utilized, as part of the treatment regime, for COVID-19. And it did not involve repurposing or redefining, the science of radio astronomy. No, all it did is to just distill the expertise and the knowledge that has been derived from implementing radio astronomy projects to lead this particular project. And one of those skills is about getting different special specialties and special expertise together into one team and working towards a single project, you know? And so that's the thing for me that we should be quite good at, you know? The VETS center that works with the Timber Labs were involved in developing models for modeling the progression of the pandemic in the country in terms of, you know, sicknesses, infections, hospitalizations, and all of that. And that fed into the decision-making, that fed as decision support for the decision makers to make decisions about lockdowns, to make decisions about how to distribute, you know, the resources that are necessary for, you know, for treating, you know, COVID-19, you know, patients. The CSIR was involved in the development of the database that is utilized for registering people for vaccination, you know. So all of those arise out of that continuum from fundamental research, you know, to innovation. So I think that is what we, for me, is the biggest challenge, our ability to fine-tune our expertise to do these applications and distillations to address the immediate and long-term societal problems. Yeah, look, I mean, for me, the most memorable one was attending the Africa meeting that, you know, that was organized by the OAU, or the meeting of the OAD, sorry, that happened, which, you know, provided a sense of the engagement of people, particularly within our continent, you know, by the OAD. And it also showcased the reach of the OAD into far-flung places that one would not necessarily think, you know, are accessible, and also providing an opportunity to unearth expertise that sits in those areas, which can be utilized for the advancement of science generally and astronomy and physics in particular. So I think that's probably one of the highlights for me. And that reach is what was relied upon in the establishment of the, what they call it, AFAS, the African Astronomy Society, or Astronomical Society. And so I don't know, and I don't think that that would have been possible to do effectively without the networks and the forums and the engagement and the foundation thereof that has been laid, you know, by the OAD. We should pay attention to how we make the OAD and its work more visible, you know, to people outside the astronomy space and the physics and astronomy space, you know, to start with, and into the broader society. And I mean, this is a challenge that we face as the NRF. The only people that know what we do are those that are beneficiaries of the work of the NRF. But we've got to be known for, you know, that, and I think that's the same, you know, for the OAD, because there's good work that has been done. The question is, how do we make that good work be known as widely as possible? And key to that, and again, it's an issue that we face as the NRF, is our ability to tell coherent impact stories and to have those stories reach as far afield as possible, to reach as many people as possible across the world, not just in our country. So I think that's obviously one thing that we need to think about. How do we do it? You know, it is being done, but how do we scale it up? Also, the issue of mobilizing resources to implement the programs that we would like to implement and the projects under those programs is I think is a critical issue, and with regard to what sort of partnerships enter into beyond the NRF and the IAU in order to raise those resources that are in demand, you know, to enable us to pursue the mandate. Yeah, so those are the two things. And perhaps the third one would be, how do we manage to expand the capacity, within the OAD? And there have been some recommendations done, the review that was undertaken. But we need to think about what is the most cost-effective and impactful way of doing that in a shorter time frame, so that we can have a greater impact, on society through the OAD.